What a day it has been. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and we are live. I promise you this, every time there is Raiders breaking news, we will go live here on this channel. It's why you got to be subscribed. It's why you got to have those notifications turned on. Can we get some 98s down below? Maxx Crosby has just signed a 3-year, $106 million contract extension, which now means that the Raiders have tied themselves to Crosby all the way through 2029. I absolutely love this deal for the Silver and Black. 5 years, $150 in total for the best defensive player on the planet and somebody that is born to be a freaking Raider, man. So coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about Maxx Crosby, about this extension, and why I am just so flippin' fired up around this. If y'all are ready to get wet and wild today, I'm telling you, today I might just end up silver and black at the F out. We're also going to talk about the signing of Alex Cappa, 2 years, $11 million. I want to talk about the DK Metcalf trade rumors. I want to talk about Tyler Lockett being linked to the Raiders today. If y'all want, I can be live as long as you want me here for. I want some questions, I want some bangs, and I want to know what y'all think about all of these moves down below. We got 500 people here in the building right now. I see Matt Juice, Raider Man Shark, Jaime, what up, my man? Griffin Navarro, Chad Fisher down below, Steven Gutierrez. It's a good day to be a Raider. Maxx Crosby looks like he's going to be a Raider for life. So this 3-year, $106.5 million extension includes $91.5 million in guarantees. One of my initial Maxx Crosby contract extension ideas was very similar to what the Rams did with Aaron Donald, giving him about $90 million in guarantees. I knew that Crosby was going to get paid, and the fact that they're giving him somewhere around that $35 million per year mark is actually even a little bit more money than I originally thought. Now, when I first put out my Maxx Crosby contract projection, that was right before the news that came out around the salary cap is going to go up here a little bit in the NFL. So after the salary cap goes up a little bit, you see Maxx Crosby get a few extra dollars and cents. But why I love this move, it connects Maxx Crosby for the next 3 years, obviously with Pete Carroll, but then even on top of that, the 5 years that you got with Jon Spytek. Jon Spytek, Pete Carroll proved to me, proved to the entire nation that they want Maxx Crosby tied to this Raiders organization as long as they are tied to this Raiders organization. So get your red pens out. Let me know down below. Grade the move A, B, C, D, or F. And again, we're going to be here live on this show for a very, very long time. I give this one an A. And I think you got to give it an A because I'm not going to sit up here and say, yeah, Max is coming off a year where he had 7.5 sacks, is coming off a little bit of a down year for Maxx Crosby. He's the face of this franchise. And if you were serious about winning football games, you needed to tie Maxx Crosby to the Raiders for as long as you could. Because if you let 98 walk out that door, what does that say to every other free agent out there? Because you know what could have happened? I think if the Raiders would have let go of Maxx Crosby, I think you could have seen a fan base turn on the Raiders, kind of like the way that the Mavericks have turned on Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks. Luka meant a lot to the Mavs. Maxx Crosby means just as much to this Raiders organization as what Luka meant to the Mavs. And I'm telling you right now, this is an A freaking grade, man. We got 800 people here in the building, and I know a lot of people are watching the press conference right now that is over on the Raiders YouTube channel. I'm doing my best to get it up. The problem is we got some technical difficulties on the back of our end, but here's the good news. I can sit up here, I can interact with all y'all, and I want to get some questions. I want to get some comments going. Thugador says, it's my birthday. What a gift from the Raiders. HBD down below to my man Thugador. Let's go to the news that also happened today, which I'll tell you what. Today has been crazy. I have thought about doing 3 different shows in a matter of 30 minutes. The first show that I was about to do, that Chugs and I were about to break live, was Alex Cappa signing a 2-year, $11.2 million deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. Cappa's deal is $5.5 million guaranteed, which I would say is fringe starter money, also fringe backup money. I think the way that the Raiders are doing this, though, is with Cappa, he was somebody that was tied to Jon Spytek in 2020 and 2021, and in those 2 years was actually a pretty good player. The problem is, since he got injured in 2022, or maybe it was 2023, but since his injury, he has been really, really bad. Essentially, the way that this contract is going to be structured, though, the Raiders, you get Cappa for 1 year. If it's good, you keep him in the second year. If it's bad, you can move on. So I know the Cappa deal's 2 for 11. If you're a Raiders fan, you should realistically look at it as 1 for 5.5 as a prove-it year overall. Now, I know this. I wanted to be able to build some interior linemen. I wanted to be able to build in the trenches. Cappa's not a good move, right? I was hoping that if the Raiders were to bring in some offensive line depth, it would at least be good offensive line depth. Now, if Cappa, you're sitting up here telling me, is going to be the 6th, 7th, 8th offensive lineman that we have, I'm okay with that considering the starting experience. What I don't want to happen and what I'm scared of happening is that this is the Cody Whitehair signing, where people tell us that it's a veteran, that he's got a lot of experience, that he's got connections to John Spytek, that he's got a connection to Tom Brady. Quite frankly, though, I don't care about the past when it comes to Cappa. I care about right now, and he was arguably the worst starting offensive lineman in the entire National Football League last season. I can't believe the Raiders honestly inked him to a deal. I still think it's a little bit of an overpay for what I would have given Cappa. I really did think that the Raiders would be smarter and the first few players that they would try to bring in. But again, if you just want some extra depth pieces, because the Raiders also did bring back Jordan Meredith and 5 other exclusive rights free agents today. So they're obviously making some stuff happen, and there is a lot of stuff happening around the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to Big Luck. We have to go get Fields now before we run out of money. The Raiders aren't going to run out of money anytime soon. You got over $100 million in salary cap space, and I think when people see the Maxx Crosby deal, people don't I don't know what the cap hit is going to be for Max in year 1, but I think this extension that they're giving him, it's going to significantly lower Maxx Crosby's contract. Quite frankly, I think that you're going to see a salary cap hit of probably somewhere around 10, 11, $12 million in the first year. Maybe you're somewhere around $20 million in the second year. And a lot of that big money is going to be near the end of his contract. But if they've also given him just a bunch of guarantees, I don't think that this cap space is going to go up. This was one of the moves that I said, if the Raiders are serious about freeing up salary cap space, they will extend Maxx Crosby, which is what they did. What up, OG Bloodstain? Finally, next, bring back Trevon Merrick. I don't know if this is the next move that I would do. Based on the text message that I got earlier today, if I had to be a gambling man, I would say Robert Spillane is the next one to get a contract. I got a text message about 3 hours ago that just said, hey, keep an eye out for Spillane. And I know how important Spillane was to Max, to this defense overall. I would love for the opportunity to bring back Trevon Merrick. No doubt about it. But I don't know if that's going to be the next move. Quite frankly, I almost think if the next move could be a Tyler Lockett signing or maybe even a trade revolving DK Metcalf. Because I know this, it is going to be wild, wild, wild here in the streets on the Raiders Report. We got over 1,000 people watching this show right now. And again, we will break down everything that is being said and talked about right now around Maxx Crosby. I really wanted to be able to show you guys the press conference, but had some things happen that I can't really quite discuss. But Maxx Crosby just said the titles and stuff are amazing, but I truly just want to win. If you're not winning, then what are you the face of? Which I think that Max is saying he wants to be the face of a winning franchise. And I know earlier somebody was saying Justin Fields. I'll tell you this, for the Raiders to go out and give Maxx Crosby an extension the day after he said a lot of interesting things about Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers has got to be on the Raiders' radar, no doubt about it. Also, another video that I will be doing, which is going to be dropping later on today, I'm going to be doing some talk about Tyler Lockett, who was released by the Seattle Seahawks, and instantly that he got released, I put out a video saying the Raiders will be interested in Lockett. Then, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter also put out reports that the Raiders will be interested in Lockett. And what's interesting about this, just like Cappa, the Raiders could sign Lockett today. They could literally do the deal right now. Also, DK Metcalf requested a trade, and originally, I thought it was going to cost a second-round pick for DK. Now I almost wonder, because he requested a trade, could that trade value go down a little bit? Because not only do you have to trade for Metcalf? You also have to give him a brand new contract. And I believe that that contract, if the Raiders were able to get the deal done, would look something along the lines of the way that A.J. Brown's contract is structured overall, which is a lot of money on the back end, not so much money on the front end. So originally, one of the trade ideas that I threw out there was the Seahawks receive pick number 37. I would sit up here now and say, if you're able to at least throw out the idea for pick 68 or for pick 73, that's what I would entertain. For DK Metcalf to request a trade, that means the trade value goes down a little bit. This was a trade that I put out when I did not know if Metcalf was going to request a trade or not. So this, to me, is the absolute max of what the Raiders would have to pay for Metcalf. Again, I believe it's a third-round pick now is what I would go out and say. Third-round pick. That sounds good. Third-round pick, maybe pick number 68 or pick number 73 is what I would look at. My question to you down below, though, is would you trade for DK Metcalf? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. This trade. This is the one. Yep. Third-round pick, number 68. Y for yes, N for no. Would you do this trade right here? Because if it was up to me, and if you want to talk about chess when everyone else is playing checkers, you could talk about the Raiders trading away Davante Adams to the New York Jets for 11 games and being able to use a third-round pick. I know that the Davante pick was number 73, but you then would still have a third. If you were able to just essentially swap DK for Davante Adams, what an absolute job there by the Raiders. I see Victor spamming yes. Trevor's going to go with a no. I don't know how anybody could say no to this, quite frankly. Jersey Boy's going to go with a yes. I see Carlos going to go with a yes. Leon's going to go with a lot of yeses down below. Somebody said Debo went for a fifth. Well, Debo's not even close to how good what DK Metcalf is. So if Debo's going to go for a fifth, I'm going to say DK is probably going to be still in that third-round range because DK is clearly a much better receiver than what Debo Samuel is, and it's not even close. So on today's show, we're going to be going through a lot of super chats. I want to answer some questions. I thought people were going to be ready to get wet and wild and party a little bit because every bang, I'm throwing one back. I'm ready to get this thing going. God, family, and Raiders for life. Tuna got the Max deal done. I also got the hat. I freaking love the hat. I don't know if you guys can see it or read it on the back. It says Raiders Report. It says Brandon Jasper. This is probably one of the coolest things that I've ever gotten from a Raiders fan. And as soon as I got it, I was like, you know what, man? I'm throwing on my Brandon Jasper hat because I know for a fact my guy's looking down. Big old smile on this Maxx Crosby deal. Let's go to Jersey Boy Greaser. Max getting the bag. Now time for a DK trade. It sounds like the DK trade rumors, like they're already in the works. For DK to request a trade and then for there to be reports out there that teams are already calling and have been calling Seattle, I actually think that a DK trade is not out of the realm of possibilities today. I don't think that the Raiders signing Tyler Lockett today is out of the range of possibilities. Today has already been one crazy day, and the fact that Tom Brady, everybody is at the Raiders facility, they're ready to play ball. And I love the fact that they're ready to play ball. A fourth and Mayer for DK. I do it in a heartbeat. Do it in a heartbeat. And I love Michael Mayer. I like Michael Mayer. Love's a strong word. And I want the Raiders to keep Mayer. And I want him to be the tight end, too, on this team. I don't want the Raiders to shop Mayer. And I'm not interested in just giving up Mayer for anything. But if you told me it's a fourth rounder and Michael Mayer for DK Metcalf, I run to the podium, I run to the dotted line, and I sign the quickest thing that I possibly can. And that's what the Raiders would do on top of that. Mayer is a good player. DK is a game changer. And that's the biggest difference. DK Metcalf, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, and we haven't even really started free agency or the draft process yet. Dude, I'm telling you right now, unbelievable. I can't wait. Chugs is saying we got to get to 500 likes, and we're going to start our cut around the Raiders, giving a massive extension to Maxx Crosby, and then also the breaking news around the Raiders signing Alex Cappa. I know that there are some people that are not here that usually are here because of the Raiders on YouTube, but I promise you this, we're going to be here rocking and partying as long as y'all want to keep this thing a rocking and a rolling, man. I'm excited. Let's get to 500 likes. We got almost 2,000 people here in the building. If Maxx Crosby signing a contract extension doesn't fire you up a little bit, I need you to check your polls, and then I also need you to click refresh on YouTube and be ready to go the next time you pull up here to the Raiders Report. Raider hype, how much money do we have left? I mean, we're still going to be close to $100 million in terms of salary cap space, guys. Don't look at the Maxx Crosby contract as 3 years, 106, like, oh my God, we're going to lose a lot of money. The Raiders giving Crosby an extension is going to actually create more salary cap space for the Raiders this year. It's just going to be a little bit more backloaded on the back end of it. Presser's done. Press conference is over for Maxx Crosby, which it's all good. Dude, you're fine. Which now means let's freaking get this thing going here on the Raiders Report, man. I'm ready to go. 1,800 people. Ron Raspberry, I see you down there below. Gerard Whittle, I see you down there below. Wolf the Guy, Simon FC, Live Oak. I want this clip to get started, and I want the nation to be ready to rock and roll, dude, because I'm ready to go. Alex L says, Mitch, have a beer. The only way I'm having a beer is if somebody loud Cameron Abbott bang! Hey man, I'm hanging out with Cast Joey here in a few hours, and you know what? I'm ready to get this happy hour started off early. Chugs and I technically are meeting up with a Raiders Report OG, Cast Joey, for lunch, dinner today at 5 o'clock. I don't know if it's going to happen, Cast. I will keep you up to date. But if I do show up, just already know it's going to be a wet and wild day. No doubt about it. LCA. Cheers to you, my brother. Cheers to you. Coming up right now, let's get into the breaking news around the Raiders extending Maxx Crosby, but also signing Alex Cappa. And then as soon as we get done with that cut, we're then going to do a whole new cut on the Raiders going out and potentially signing Tyler Lockett and also potentially trading for DK Metcalf. If you didn't have anything to do today, don't worry. Chugs and I are going to be live here for, if I had to guess, no doubt an hour. If you want me to stay live for 2 hours, I'll stay live for 2. If you want me to stay live for 3, we'll stay live for 3. But I need the nation to start showing out and showing some love, like LCA, like Alex L, Ron Raspberry, Big Luck. Let's get this thing going. Let's get into the breaking news right now. Breaking news, the Las Vegas Raiders have extended Maxx Crosby, and they have also signed Alex Cappa. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to break down everything that you need to know around both of these moves. One move, I absolutely love. The other move, I'm not going to lie, I don't understand it at all. But this is why you subscribe to the Raiders Report. When news happens, we keep you up to date. We got over 2,000 people watching this live, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that watch this video. I also want y'all to show love to Maxx Crosby, the man, the myth, the legend, whatever you want to call him. This dude is born a Raider. He's got it tatted on him. He's wanted to be a Raider for life, and I want y'all to spam those 98s down below, because by the Raiders making this deal happen, it tells me, it tells you that the Raiders are serious about keeping Maxx Crosby, Pete Carroll, and John Spytek all together, and that they are serious about trying to win this upcoming season. So the deal that ends up going down, Crosby is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. It is a 3-year, $106.5 million extension that includes $91.5 million in guarantees. The 3-year extension, 3 years is the deal that Pete Carroll ended up signing with the Raiders. John Spytek signed a 5-year deal. Because it is a 3-year extension, Maxx Crosby's entire deal now is 5 years, about $150 million. So it ties him to Pete Carroll, it ties him to John Spytek, but also the fact that the Raiders were able to do this move, it is going to free up salary cap space. One of the videos that I did a few weeks ago was talking about how the Raiders could free up close to $40 million in salary cap space. The Raiders already cut Minshew. That's going to free up a little bit of money. But because they gave the extension to Crosby and because they gave him the amount of guarantees that they gave him, it's going to free up salary cap space this year, and it's going to free up some space next year. Sure, this contract's going to be backloaded, but Crosby already had 3 void years in 2027, 2028, and in 2029 on his contract. So all this does for the Raiders is it keeps Crosby on your team for the long haul, but it also ties him to the Raiders on a cheaper overall cap space hit for this upcoming season. And if anybody's going to sit up here and say this isn't a good move for the Raiders, you don't know ball. Yes, you had to pay him heavily. And yes, he is the highest paid player now that is not a quarterback. I get it. 7.5 sacks last season didn't go the way that he wanted. It also did not go the way that the Raiders were wanting. But the reason why you had to make this deal is because what you cannot afford to happen is you cannot afford to lose your fan base. You cannot afford to show all these other free agents out there that we don't do right by our players. Because I'll tell you this right now. I live down in Dallas, Texas. If the Raiders would not have given Maxx Crosby a contract extension and they would have let him walk, I think Raiders fans would have turned on the Raiders very similar to the way that you've seen Mavericks fans kind of turn on Mavs and Nico Harrison because of their love for Luka. The Raiders showed today that they are a loyal franchise to Crosby. And when you see some of these big-name free agents, right, if you want to go out and you want to get a guy like DK Metcalf, he's going to want loyalty. You want to go out and get a guy like Christian Wilkins, he's going to want loyalty. And the Raiders did that today. They showed they are loyal to Max, and any big-name free agent is now going to know, you know what? That's a loyal-ass franchise, and if I go out there and I ball for them and I do everything that they ask me, which is what Crosby has done, because he is the heart and soul of this team, and I am happy that he is a Raider for the foreseeable future, because it also means the Raiders are serious about trying to win football games right now. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, make sure those notifications are turned on, because if you're not excited about Maxx Crosby getting this contract extension done, man, I mean it. You need to go check your pulse. This is a great, great move for the Raiders, and I'm really excited about Crosby. A lot of people are going to ask, Mitch, does this mean that we're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers? I'll tell you this, the fact that the day after the Raiders, all the rumors around Rodgers, Maxx Crosby gets his deal done, Crosby's definitely got to say. But at the same time, just because they ink Crosby to a deal does not mean that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the next quarterback. He's at least going to be in the consideration. I would say the next move that the Raiders could potentially do today would be bringing back, if you will, Robert Spillane. Because I did get a text message earlier today that said keep an eye out for Spillane. And the fact that, Maxx Crosby got that deal done, big time stuff. But I mean, what's amazing, if you want to see the video around whether or not I would want the Raiders to bring in Aaron Rodgers, here's a video that I dropped bright and early this morning. Chugs and I came in today at like 7 a.m. to get this bad boy done. Check it out. It's a hell of a thing. It also talks about the moving on from Minshew, the Joe Tooney trade around the Chiefs, and a player that the Raiders did end up re-signing. That video is going to be down in the comments and in the description of today's show. I also got to show some love to our sponsor here, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there, and it is PrizePicks. It's easy, it's exciting, it's daily fantasy sports made easy, and PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Also, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. And you know what? The Raiders are going to try to run their game by pounding the rock, and we'll see if Alex Cappa can help them do that. He was signed to a 2-year, $11.2 million deal today for the Silver and Black, including $5.5 million guaranteed. The reason why Cappa is joining the Las Vegas Raiders is because of his connection with Jon Spytek. And he was with Spytek from 2018 to 2021. He's also started in 50 of 51 possible games. I'll say this, though. Obviously, I'm not thrilled about the move around Cappa, but when you look at the contract, don't look at it so much as a 2-year, $11.2 million deal. I would look at it as more as a 1-year, $5.5 million deal that is a prove-it deal. Because if Cappa is good, they'll just keep him on the roster, and they'll essentially just pay him again about $5.5 million the following year. If Cappa is bad this season, they're just going to cut ties, and they are going to move on from the veteran offensive lineman. So I want you to get your red pens out. At the beginning of today's show, I said the Raiders did something that I loved, and they did something that I hated. This is going to be the move that I'm not crazy about. A, B, C, D, or F. I want you to grade the move around the Raiders bringing in Alex Cappa. This is a D move for me, and the reason why I'm going to give it a D grade is because he was arguably the worst starting offensive lineman in the National Football League last season. I mean, in 1,132 snaps, he had a 50.5 overall PFF grade, pass blocking grade of 39.7, a run blocking grade of 54.9, 8 sacks allowed, 2 penalties. Cappa, I get it, has that experience with Jon Spytek. But since he sustained that injury, which happened a few years ago, he just has not even been close to the same player. I mean, you're talking about a dude that had 36 hurries. Some people have him down with almost 51 total hurries, if you look at some people out there from Cappa. He got exploited last season on the Cincinnati Bengals, and for a team like the Bengals, that they need to be able to protect Joe Burrow. One of the very first moves that they did this offseason was move on from Cappa. I know the connection to Jon Spytek and Tom Brady, which is why this deal ended up going down. But when you give a player $5.5 million guaranteed and 2 years at $11.2 million, that's borderline starter money, and it's borderline fringe starter money. I would say that this deal kind of reminds me of what the Raiders did last offseason when they went out and they signed Cody Whitehair. And quite frankly, if you're a Raiders fan, that's kind of how you should feel about the move of Cappa. It's a Cody Whitehair type of deal. And I'll be real, I don't want Cappa anywhere near my starting offensive line. He's not good enough to start. I'd rather you start Jordan Meredith if we're being 100% honest here. What it does do, though, it provides a little bit more depth. Andres Pete, Cody Whitehair, both players are going to be out the door. And then when you see a lot of those other names on the screen, right? JPJ, young. Dylan Parham, young. DJ Glaze, young. Thayer Munford, young player. Jordan Meredith, young player. You bringing in Alex Cappa, I'm hoping, is a overpay for a backup offensive lineman. That, to me, is best case scenario. You are overpaying for a backup. If it's week 1, and Alex Cappa walks out there onto the starting field, and he's planning on starting, I will be very disappointed in the Las Vegas Raiders doing this move. Also, we will be dropping another video coming up here shortly on the Raiders Report. It's not going to be in this one. The next video I put out, let's say it's an hour from now. I don't know. Could he be even sooner? We're going to talk about Tyler Lockett being released by the Seahawks because he's already been linked to the Raiders. And then DK Metcalf requested a trade. We're going to talk about what that could potentially look like from a trade and overall standpoint here on the Raiders Report. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure the notices are on. I promise you. This week, next week, it's going to be crazy. Fly guy! Bang! Come on, Fly guy! Been watching since the Silver Suit days. Keep coming. Let's frickin' go, Mad Max. The Silver Suit days. Bro, I'm telling you this right now. That is a long, long time ago. Long, long time ago. Salute to Fly Guy 75. That is unflippin' believable. I want to see some Fly Guys down below. You've been rocking since the Silver Suit. That is way before 10,000 subs. Now I got something a little bit different, but I dressed up today to hang out with Cass Joey. Let's get it going. So pumped with this extension. They prove they know Mad Max is the soul of this team and paid him. He deserves this. No trade for DK. 3rd and 6th pick. You're saying don't trade for DK if it was a 3rd and 6th pick? It's not going to cost that. What if it was just your third-round pick for DK? Oh, you're saying either draft somebody with the number 6 pick or in the third round. I hear you loud and clear. The only reason why I am not going to be as on, like, I like the idea of you potentially drafting. Like, I would rather the Raiders draft T-Mac, and I would rather the Raiders sign Chris Godwin than going out and trading for DK Metcalf. However, though, if by DK requesting a trade, if his trade value went down, that totally changes my situation. Where yesterday's live show that I did, I ranked a whole bunch of wide receiver ones for the Raiders. I'll be honest with you, I'm still going to push that video out at some point today, but the ranking is kind of switched up a little bit. More news. The Philadelphia Eagles are re-signing all-pro linebacker Zach Bond to a 3-year, $51 million contract. Today has been bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S, man. Today has been unflippin' believable around the NFL. It really has, man. What? Now I don't know. Maybe he's not. I don't know. So there's been some speculation on whether or not Hunter Renfrow is retired or not, and it was put out that Renfrow has retired, though he just quote tweeted and said that he hasn't announced his retirement yet. It says Renfro's been working out the past 2 months. I think people assumed that he's retired because he just started a new landscaping business. So he just started a brand new business, but again, he's got millions of dollars to start whatever business that he wants to potentially start, man. Wild. All right, y'all. Hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. Let's get some questions going. We got a lot of questions to get to here on the Raiders Report. Let's go to Muerte, sending in the good vibes. By the Raiders getting a deal done with Maxx Crosby, it is the definition of sending in the good vibes, because I'll tell you this, I feel really good about that move. Let's go to Gak Jardner. Hunter Renfrow just said he's trying to make a comeback. Do you see a world where we sign him on a 1-year prove-it deal? I don't see a world where any NFL team gives Hunter Renfrow a 1-year contract. And this has been something, that I've been saying for over a year now. When Renfrow had those concussions sustained, people don't realize how much of a difference of a game changer that made for him. And I know that Hunter Renfrow's got a special place in a lot of Raiders fans' hearts, but there's a reason why he hasn't played for as long as he has. He's just not good enough to play in the NFL anymore. And maybe he gets a contract at 1 year, 1.2, but with all the injuries that he has sustained, especially to the head, I don't know if he's going to risk it for a cheap prove-it deal like you're talking about. Let's go to Trevor. What up, Trevor? Please get Fields and Genty. Also, DK would look like a menace in the silver and black. I mean, any Raiders player, any person in general, I think would look like a menace in silver and black. But I also think the idea, if you're the Raiders and you draft a Genty, you go out and you sign a Justin Fields, if you can also add a field stretcher and DK Metcalf to take the top off of a defense, I mean, that's a great recipe for success that I've been saying for a while the Raiders should consider, right? Like, when you saw the way the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs, it was running the football effectively. It was having a quarterback that can run, having a running back that can obviously beat you in a lot of different ways, which is exactly what Genty would be able to do, but it's also being able to have a quarterback that can throw down the field, which I'm a little bit iffy on with Fields, but you also need wide receivers that can win down the field in one-on-one situations. If you're the Raiders and you're serious about bringing in Justin Fields, I don't know if there is another receiver on the planet that is a realistic candidate to join this team. DK Metcalf is more important to the Raiders than a T-Mac, more important to the Raiders than a Chris Godwin, if your plan is Justin Fields, because of what he adds to the down-the-field element and what he adds from a blocking, speed, and overall offensive fit. If you want Justin Fields, trading for DK Metcalf is a great way to prove that. Let's go to Marcus Johnson. Let's go. I am happy that we signed Max to a big deal. I love the move, man. I love the move, and it was about damn time. I was getting a little bit worried of when this deal could potentially happen, and I love the fact that my gotcha day for Chuck is now also the day that the Raiders got to say that we got you, Maxx Crosby, for a long-time deal. Oh, gee! I know stupid and a low chance to happen, but what says go all in than trading for Myles Garrett, giving up next year's first and second? I'm just spitballing. I don't want to give up my first-round pick next season, right? Like, the only way I'm giving up a first-round pick in next year's draft is if I know it's for a quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Myles Garrett and Maxx Crosby is absolute box watch. You got to really tune in to see how great that dynamic duo would be. But then that also takes away from the ability to build a complete roster. I think a lot smarter way to do what you want to do is just try to re-sign Caleb on Chasen. Maybe you try to bring in a Josh Sweat. Maybe you just try to bring back a Malcolm Kuntz on a little bit of a cheaper deal. And instead of using all those draft picks and all that money of what it would cost you to go out and get Myles Garrett, I'd rather use some of that money to build a more complete Raiders roster. And it sucks passing on Myles, but it's going to cost a lot to trade for Mr. Garrett. Let's go to a little flapjack. Who does Chugs want as the Raiders quarterback? Well, you're going to have to ask Mr. Jeremy Chugs for that one. Again, 2,000 people here in the building. If you haven't yet, hit that like button. Maxx Crosby deserves it.
For the Raiders this season, with everything happening and all the news that's going on, and Lil Flapjack, if you haven't watched Mitch's episode this morning that we put out bright and early around Aaron Rodgers, my answer is going to be Aaron Rodgers plus a quarterback in this year's draft. Aaron Rodgers plus Jackson Dart, Aaron Rodgers plus Jalen Milroe, somebody that you can get in the second, third, fourth, fifth round, because I don't think anybody is you're willing to tie yourself to anybody long term, which maybe you tried a Justin Fields and go the cheaper route. I think he's going to make a lot more than what people think with the New York Jets and other teams interested in him as well.
Yep.
Same with the New York Giants. I would say right now, a very cheap Aaron Rodgers deal plus a rookie, that might be it. I don't know. If you can get Justin Fields on a cheap contract, that would be one thing. But I don't know if Sam Darnold is worth locking yourself up to 2 or 3 years at $45 million, $40 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to cost that much for Darnold. I think if you go out and get Darnold, it's probably going to be somewhere like $15 million in year one. I think it's probably like $30 million in year two, and then almost $50 million in year three of that deal. Rodgers, I think, would be structured very close to the way that the Buccaneers gave Tom Brady his contract, which was essentially like 2 years, $50 million.
And
lower salary caps.
And Maxx Crosby likes the idea of Aaron Rodgers. That's the one thing that kind of leans, because everybody's kind of in that middle area. There's no surefire pick. There's nobody. If somebody's telling you there's a surefire quarterback for the Raiders this offseason, they are either lying to you or they don't know ball, because there is no surefire guy the Raiders can bring in at quarterback this year. It's pros and cons for every single guy that you're going to bring in, because very rarely do you find a quarterback that you can get in free agency or trade that is going to be a franchise guy, because once teams have a franchise quarterback, they don't let them go.
Yeah.
So anybody you get, it's either going to be they're old, they're not really proven, they maybe only have 1 year of production or some untapped potential in a Justin Fields, or you go with a drafted guy. I've been saying Jackson Dart is a first-round talent.
Yep.
If Chip Kelly can be a Jackson Dart whisperer, bring him in. Let me remind you, do you remember Pete Carroll, his start of his tenure in Seattle, what they did? They brought in Matt Flynn to a larger contract. And you know what they did? They drafted somebody in the second, third, fourth round. You might know him. Third round, right?
Third.
You might know him. His name's Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
He ended up beating him out in camp. I could see something similar where the Raiders bring in a quarterback in free agency. It would be hilarious if it was Russell Wilson. Just for the parallels. But they bring in a guy, and you're able to get Dart in the second round, maybe Milroe in the third round or fourth round, and see if that guy can beat out whoever in camp or maybe start some point this season. And if that doesn't work out, you reset and you go all in next year to trade up to the top 2 picks in next year's draft when the quarterback class is way better than it is this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. A lot of stuff's going to happen here, though, very soon for the Raiders. Because the Crosby extension happened before free agency, I'm telling y'all right now, you will know who the Raiders' starting quarterback is by Wednesday next week.
I am saying, I think Dart to the Raiders I'm coming around more to the idea of that being a possibility. I kind of like it.
I don't know. I don't know. Since the NFL Combine,
Dart looked the best at the Combine.
He looked good. I'm saying based on what I've talked about and what I've heard, I think the Raiders are a lot more likely to draft a quarterback on day 3 than any day. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback, quite frankly, in the first 3 rounds of the draft. I think you're going to see a quarterback being taken by the Raiders on day 4 simply just because of like a Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers. Those are some guys that I know that this team likes, but because they want to be in win now mode, they want to use some of those picks to be able to win right now. I think Dart would be a fun project for a year or two. The problem is if they draft anybody by not named Cam Ward, that quarterback's not going to start. Let's go to Rebel. Crosby has 16 against the Dealers.
Crosby hits and goes, got a 21. This is how I see Crosby. Cappa busted on a 15. Dealer got 20. Crosby wins. Cappa L.
Yeah, I almost wonder if, jokingly, I said this to one of our chat sports guys. I was like, did they see how much people hated the Alex Cappa move and then instantly were like, let's drown that noise out and let's just throw out this Maxx Crosby deal.
Oh, my God.
Wild stuff.
And it's so funny how quickly the NFL changes with everything going on. 2 years ago, if I told you the Super Bowl winning team prioritized a running back and a linebacker as their top 2 moves in the offseason, you would call me crazy.
Yeah.
But the Philadelphia Eagles, the first thing they do, go out and secure their running backs, Saquon Barkley, linebacker, Zach Bond. Those are the first 2 moves that they cared about the most, and arguably the position that's been the most shit on the past 5 years.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to do things that are unpopular, and Howie Roseman's not afraid to do it. Let's go to Raider Peanut 34. Hell yeah, I'm only 20 and had hope in 2016 with Mad Max, Pete Carroll, and John Spytek. I'm finally hopeful again. I can't wait. First the Chiefs spanking, now this. I get my second Raider tattoo next week. Oh, dude. Raider Peanut 34, what are you getting? Let me know what you're getting.
He's getting a Raider almond.
A Raider almond? Lord Cameron Abbott, sorry, I meant now trade for DK with a 3rd and a 6th. Oh, so you're saying if you would give up a 6th-round pick and a 3rd-round pick for DK Metcalf. If that's what it took, I'm okay with that. I mean, we have 3 6 and we have 2 3rds. More than okay with that type of compensation. But again, you then have to be prepared to give DK Metcalf a major pay upgrade, which they would be ready to do. Raider Peanut 34, Bobby Wagner soon. He went to my high school. He's starting to sound like Chugs. Wagner is 34 years old. He's still one of the best linebackers in the NFL. The only reason why I don't know if that would end up happening is because I know the Raiders are trying to work on something with Robert Spillane. And if you bring back Spillane and having a guy like Wagner, they almost play the exact same linebacker role. I do think that Wagner, you can make an argument, is a better linebacker than what Robert Spillane is, though I would want Spillane at 29 years old. Like, I think you can make an argument that Bobby Wagner right now is a better linebacker than Robert Spillane. But I am also looking at what Robert Spillane means to this locker room, what Robert Spillane means for the long haul, and Spillane's got longer term at 29 than what Bobby Wagner does at 34. So if you're the Raiders, if you're looking at a 1-year window, sure, Wagner, but you're not. You're looking at a 3-year window, which is why I would rather the Raiders bring back Robert Spillane. Let's go to Raider Man 01, Mad Max, DK, and Lockett. We will be well on our way beyond the Thunderdome. Just win, baby. I think the Tyler Lockett move you should look at as him being like your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, right? We talk all the time about adding competition to the quarterback room because that's something that Carroll is going to want to try to do by them moving on from Gardner Minshew today. Could they bring in somebody like a Zach Wilson to compete with Aiden O'Connell? It's something that you got to consider. The Raiders are going to bring in, a quarterback in the draft to go out there and compete with Aiden. I think a wide receiver battle that you should keep an eye on is Tyler Lockett and Trey Tucker. If the Raiders were to bring in Lockett, I would almost have Lockett put his arm around Tucker, kind of groom him in terms of being that next Lockett's style of receiver and what it takes to succeed in a Pete Carroll offense. But Lockett's good. Lockett's not quite what he used to be, and I would still want them to use Trey Tucker, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Got some more super chats flowing here on the Raiders Report. And if you're excited about the deal that just ended up going down, reminder, you can use hashtag Raiders. You can super chat to get those questions, comments on the show. If you're trying to bang, it's $100 super chat. You bang, I throw down a beer bong, and you get added to our March bang competition. I'm telling you this right now. Whoever bangs the most in March, the prize you're going to win is going to blow your freaking mind. That's all I'm going to say.
Some draft news as well.
What do you got for me?
Looks like the Browns know something. They met with 3 players, according to Adam Schefter, so far for their pre-draft visits. The first 3 players they prioritized, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders. I feel like they think that Cam Ward's not even an option. He's going number 1 regardless.
I mean, that's really intriguing to me. That's really interesting to me. You think I will be able to join March Madness on Friday? Yeah, you should be able to, Rubio. If you don't know what Rubio's talking about, we are doing a Raiders Report March Madness bracket. Essentially, it's 1v1 duck races. 64 people get in. It's $50 to get in. One person, like, you can only get 1 entry per person. I just saw somebody try to get 2. I sent them back the money. So if you want to get in for a chance to win $1,600, we did this last season. It was a huge hit. Venmo me at Mitchell Renz 365, $50. I will say this right now. We're almost halfway filled up. So if you want an opportunity to get in, you got to take advantage of this. We will be live every single day next week. And I promise you, by Monday next week, all 64 of these slots will be filled up. And if you're an OG watcher, I think you're really going to kick yourself in the you-know-what that you didn't join this. Let's go to Eric. What up, man? Let's get Fields and trade for Metcalf, draft Genty, and also maybe bring in Aaron Jones. The only reason why I'm not going to say I'm on board for this wholeheartedly is because I think Aaron Jones is going to get the most money on the open market, not named Najee Harris. And you're already investing a lot in Ashton Genty. If you wanted to say, hey, Mitch, let's wait until round 3 or 4 and sign Aaron Jones, I'm more on board with that. But to me, if you're drafting Ashton Genty at 6 overall, basically, that's going to be your workhorse back. And I know you want to try to keep him fresh, but I would just rather than you go out and invest some other money on a different running back not named Aaron Jones. Quite frankly, if you draft Genty at 6, I'm okay with you drafting another running back in the 7th round because of how deep this year's running back class is. And also after the Raiders sign Alex Cappa, I want to be able to still use some money to go out and get an offensive line because in my mind, the Raiders haven't added any legit depth to their offensive line class.
I don't know how this comes to a surprise to him, but also Jackson Smith and Jigba tweeted out 45 minutes ago, hey, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, that's
right after the DK and Tyler Lockett news broke.
Which I don't think that he's actually surprised, and which we always talk about. It blows my mind how often NFL players truly don't know what's going on in the league. I mean, we were sitting there saying there was an interview with Marquette King, and he literally was like, I've never heard of Jimmy Garoppolo, which that blew my mind. There was a former Raiders player who I would talk to him all the time about people on his defensive line. He was like, I don't even know who that is. On the same team. It would blow my mind. Javi, what's up, dude? Could it be Rodgers with Sanders or Dart sitting for a year, but they need to get DK for sure? I'll be real with you, man. I think if the Raiders go out and they get an Aaron Rodgers, I don't see them drafting a Jackson Dart or a Shedeur Sanders. If you go out and you get Rodgers, I almost think that it says that you were trying to win right now. And if you are trying to win right now, you would use some of those higher draft picks to help you win right now. And the more and more rumors that were around Matthew Stafford, if they would have traded for Stafford, it would have meant, hey, we're trying to win some football games ASAP, Rocky. The fact that the Raiders were trying to do that tells me that they are still trying to win football games. I was somebody that was really thought that the Raiders would draft a QB in round 1, round 2, round 3. I really just don't have that feeling anymore. And maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what ends up happening, but I think the Raiders are targeting the quarterback on day 3, way more than they are in day 1 or 2. Just because, again, that quarterback's not going to play for at least a year or 2. Gregory, Mad Max, hell yeah. When you can get a deal done, and the Raiders ended up getting a deal done with Crosby, 3 years, 106 with $91.5 million. It is an extension, which now means Max's entire contract is about 5 years for $150 million. By making this move, it lowers the overall salary cap for the Raiders this season, which is what we needed to do. Make some more space. Blaine, this Crosby extension is great news. I don't know if I could have dropped a video today that would have been better news than the Raiders going out and extending Maxx Crosby. I don't know if there's better news out there, because this was the very first domino that needed to fall to prove to all these other free agents out there that the Raiders are serious about winning football games this year. Rubio, sorry I haven't been active. I got into a nasty accident and my insurance is peaches, apparently. Also, hospital Wi-Fi sucks. Can't be worse than our Wi-Fi here, but I do know how bad getting into an accident can be. It's not possible. I think we have the worst Wi-Fi in the entire North Hemisphere. It blows my mind sometimes. Wilton Carter, how do you feel about Will Howard? I don't love Will Howard. Haven't loved Will Howard for anybody that's followed this show for a long time.
Kids in Puerto Rico have the fiber, and we're struggling.
I mean, we use basically dial-up here over the past few weeks. I would say, for me personally, the Will Howard connection I get with Chip Kelly. I also don't want to overblow how bad he looked at the combine.
He sucked.
Howard, to me, is a player, though, where you probably want to take him on day 3 of the draft. He looked good last season, but you also got to consider how talented that Ohio State offense was. He's not going to get players that are that much more talented than the defenses that they're going up against. Howard is a day 3 quarterback in my book. Let's go to Patrick B. What do you got for me?
Will Howard, not a top 4 round quarterback.
I agree. Like, if you ask me right now, Will Howard or Kyle McCord, I take Kyle McCord, and I don't think twice about it.
Will Howard, also his name, also what people say whenever he's going to complete a pass. Like, go, Will Howard complete a pass. I don't know.
I don't know. Patrick B. I don't want Fields at all, not accurate at all, and always looks lost on the field. He can't get us into the playoffs. We need a quarterback that can throw for 300 yards, 2 to 3 touchdowns, not run for 80, and maybe throw a touchdown. So how about this?
Trade for Davis Mills.
Are you somebody that believes that defense wins championships? Because I found a really interesting stat where if the Raiders want to play more ball control, and I was always somebody that, you know what, hey, I want a quarterback that can throw for 300 yards, 2 to 3 touchdowns, but that might not be the recipe to win a Super Bowl. And I bring that up because if you're trying to get into a duel match with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, genuinely, I don't really think that you're going to win that. If you're an NFL team, though, that just saw the way that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat Mahomes, the way that the Philadelphia Eagles did, they did it by winning in the trenches, pounding the rock, and getting after Mahomes with 4. By going out and signing Justin Fields, you are able to build the most complete lineup that you can to do all of those things that I just mentioned. On top of that, the Pittsburgh Steelers last season had 4 games where they allowed less than 13 points on defense. All of those games featured Justin Fields at quarterback. And I know when you just look at Justin Fields, the name, I get it, right? Like I'm not very confident in Fields either, but I'm so confident in Chip Kelly to be able to figure it out with Fields that's why I would trust that process. But it's also a risk for Sam Darnold. It's a risk for Aaron Rodgers. It's a risk for Russell Wilson. But the one quarterback that allows you to build the most complete team all around you, it is Justin Fields. So I know that you're not on board for Fields. I know he's not accurate. But I just have such confidence in Chip Kelly, and I really believe that Fields gives you the best opportunity to make the most complete roster.
I believe in Chip Kelly.
Let's go to Mr. Smiley. Thank God we extended Crosby. Just got a custom Raiders paint job on a motorcycle last year with Crosby on it. Now, don't got to change it. Yeah, I'm happy for your sake then, man, because that would make me nervous.
Is anybody as happy as Mr. Smiley with this news?
I don't think so. I think he changed his name.
Also, profile pic. Is that you with Chiefsaholic?
I think that is.
That is wild if that's you with Chiefsaholic.
When was that taken?
But, hey, Mr. Smiley, just not as your lawyer, but legal advice. You don't have to answer that question of when that photo was taken.
Patrick B., I know you still got to throw the ball, but if Jalen Hurts can show that he can get better and better as a passer, I think Justin Fields also might be able to.
He said, yes, that's my boy.
That's my boy is crazy. I would not say that statement out loud. Raider Peanut 34, getting the out torch had to bite your style. That's all good. I got the out torch on the back of my leg. I got Oakland on the front, and I'm going to go Las Vegas on the back of my leg sleeve. If there's another Raiders tattoo artist that wants to finish the back of my leg, hey, hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. Let's freaking run this thing because I've been wanting to get the back of my leg done. I'll be real, I just don't have the money to do it because I'm saving up for my wedding. So I would love to get it done before the wedding. Raider Tone.
Raider Tone.
Re-signed Spillane and signed Damian Sherwood.
Lovehead.
In free agency. I mean, I saw Sherwood's name pop up, and I thought you were trying to get me. There's an old chat sports joke around the name Sherwood, and I can't really get into the details around it. I want the Raiders to re-sign Robert Spillane, and I do think Sherwood is an intriguing linebacker who, again, has got some interesting ties to Tampa Bay, to John Spytek, though there's a part of me that wants the Raiders to only re-sign Robert Spillane and then to go out and look at some of these safety prospects like a Nick Emawari, right? Could you convert him to a linebacker safety hybrid and have him play a Cam Chancellor role? It's crazy, but when you're a crazy athlete, you can do crazy things. Let's go to Vincent Luna. Did Hunter Renfrow retire? If so, let's wish him good one. Thanks for the good games and the Raiders. I mean, Renfrow said today that he didn't retire.
Spam those 13s.
He said he didn't retire today. I would say, though, he probably should, right? And by Renfrow saying that he hasn't retired, I think that just goes to show that he's still looking for an opportunity out there. But I don't know what team would actually want to give Hunter Renfrow another opportunity. All right, let's go to the next one here. I actually got to tweet this video out real quick. Rubio, y'all got that Jimmy G to Adams connection. Hashtag no Wi-Fi. I mean, though Davante Adams' best season he's ever had, I think you can make an argument, one of the best seasons he's ever had was with Jimmy Garoppolo. Or no? No, it wasn't. What year? It might have been, I think it was the Derek Carr year. Because what? It was the year where he had like 1,500 yards. That was a hell of a season. All right, I got to tweet something out here. Extend Maxx Crosby and sign Alex Cappa.
All right, here we go. I want everybody to get in the comment section. If you were the GM, what move would you make in free agency or in a trade next? We already broke down Crosby got extended. Alex Cappa, Cheeks, got signed to the Raiders offensive line. 2 years, $11 million. Let me know, what move would you make in free agency if you were in charge? If you were the guy, what would you do? Let me see. I see Def Halo says sign Spillane and trade for DK. Tybo says sign Spillane. Trade to get Cam Ward from Raider Rob. Trade up to number 1 would be his next move. Bring back Mac. Return of the Mac.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's from Paradise Poppy. Brian says sign Spillane and trade for DK. Alex says sign Rodgers and draft Dart. Miguel says sign Spillane. I see a lot of DKs going in there. Re-sign Trevon Merrick. Trade for Allen. Which Allen are we talking about?
The only trade for Allen, I mean, Josh Allen's never going to happen. Maybe sign Keenan Allen?
Yeah. Same with sign Lamar. I don't know.
I mean, Lamar Jackson's not
says
happening.
Malcolm Kuntz. Frank says sign Nick Bolton. He is a free agent from the Chiefs.
Nah, I wouldn't sign Nick Bolton. If you're the Raiders, you got to bring back Robert Spillane before you were to sign Nick Bolton.
Let's see.
I don't agree with that.
Ron Pacheco says sign Rodgers, then Harris and DK. Harris being... Which Harris are we thinking?
I don't know, dude. Don't know.
Trade for Myles Garrett from Ivan. Chava says the Washington tackle. I think you're talking about Jonathan Allen. Oh, that Allen. You want to trade for Jonathan Allen.
Oh, the defensive tackle. Yeah, I mean, that's still a little bit pricey. I'd rather you just bring back Adam Butler on a cheaper contract.
I see signed Najee
Also,
Harris.
some news here coming out from Jordan Schultz. DK Metcalf obviously is expected to draw interest from multiple teams, but dating back to last offseason, the Chargers were one team quietly monitoring the situation. If you're the Raiders, first off, smart job, even if the Chargers aren't interested in DK Metcalf, because you already know DK is going to have connections to the Raiders, and you're going to try to draw up that price tag even higher, even if you're not interested. So I don't love that report that just came out. But at the same time, the Chargers are a team that also you should consider for Devontae Adams. I mean, I've said it before. I think the number one team that would get Devontae is going to be the Chargers. What's up?
I'm just on X right now, just trying to keep up with everything that's going on, and apparently McAfee got Sintel today.
Wow. That's tough to do.
NBA Sintel put out, anonymous NBA executive believes Nico Harrison has a humiliation kink after trading for Luka Doncic. And McAfee said it today on the show, was like, there's reports that he has a humiliation kink.
What does that mean?
Like, you're into getting humiliated. You like people, like, laughing at you, making fun of you, like, it turns you on.
I mean, I've done this show now for 7 years. That would be the weirdest thing ever. That would be wild. LCA, you, sir, are in. D'Angelo, you in. Austin Gomez, you in.
Is this for the...
For the March Madness bracket? I'm telling you right now, $50 Venmo to get in. Armando, do you think Seattle says yes to trading DK for our third from the Jets and Mayer? If they do, they should trade back to get more picks and take Dart. I do think that it's possible that the Raiders could trade for DK Metcalf. I would say a third and Mayer would be a deal that, again, I would consider. I think Mayer is a good player, but if I can get a third-round pick for DK and I don't have to give up that second, I'm on board for it. If they need a little cherry on top for Michael, cool, like let's run it, I would do it. I don't want to lose out on Mayer, but if it means that we get to land DK Metcalf, if it's a third and Mayer, I'm willing to do that one. Let's go to another one coming in here on today's show. Reminder, it's hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat to skip the line. I want to kind of get this party started. So I got an idea here. You ready to have a little bit of fun? $50 bangs for the remainder of this show. If you bang the old-fashioned way, I'm going to count it as 2. But if you bang now, 50 going forward, we're throwing down some beers. Because I'm not going to lie to you. When this Maxx Crosby news broke, I told everybody at Chat Sports, Chugs and I are going to be live all day. Which, we can be live all day. But at the same time, if there's nothing really else that's going on around the Raiders, and if y'all, and which is fine if you're not, you don't want to put the drinking pants on. It's Wednesday for crying out loud. And you're saving up for next week because next week's going to be crazy. But at the same time, I kind of came ready to party. And I'm meeting up with Cass Joey in a little bit. When I say a little bit, it's probably, 3 hours from now still?
Sorry.
That's going to be a good time.
Oh, you know what we can do? We have a little lull. We have another cut that we need to do.
Oh, we do have another cut. That's true.
This next one's presented by Panda, and it actually goes with everybody's been asking a similar question today. I would say 70% of the questions have been around DK Metcalf, and that's what we're going to break down here on the show. We have Mitch's trade idea that we can talk about, and then we're also going to talk about another Seahawks receiver, Tyler Lockett, who just got cut today as well, breaking down the 2 Seahawks receivers, but we are 11 likes away from 900. Can we get 11 likes before we get into this cut?
Run it up, man. Run it up. Also, draft a quarterback and 2 running backs, then fill out the rest. That could be an I wouldn't be shocked if they did draft a quarterback and 2 running backs. It's just the question of where exactly you want them to do that. Because you're not going to, those aren't going to be your first 3 picks. Quite frankly, I think you got to pick 1 out of your first 5 picks for what you're suggesting. We'll see what ends up happening, though. I just saw something come across. Now, there's just so much shit happening today in the NFL. I also saw somebody ask Mitch, how much salary cap do the Raiders have right now? I'll be real. I don't know if that number is going to be updated at any time soon because there's so much shit that's happening today. I would say you probably won't know how much money the Raiders have in salary cap until 24 to 48 hours from now. We can actually have a solid number that we can feed off of. Coming up next here on the show, I want to get into, we're going to talk about Tyler Lockett, and we're going to talk about DK Metcalf trade rumors. Michael Zapata! Bang! Come on, Zapata! Let's freaking get this thing going, man. If you're not fired up that the Raiders just extended Maxx Crosby, check your pulse.
Did Knicks win? Tell Marsh LeBron is feasting. Luka's been feasting too. He's been looking awesome.
Also to NE_Raider boosters, if you're going to keep talking shit, I will block you on the channel. I put you in timeout for 5 minutes. That was my warning to you. We're here to just be a family. We're here to speak nothing but positivity. If you're talking bad about me, if you're talking bad about Chugs, I'm going to put you in timeout and block you on the channel. That's your final warning. Let's go to Zapata. Let's go. Excited for Mad Max. Mitch, can I get a shout out for my wife, Karen? Shout out to Karen Zapata. She gave birth yesterday to a new member to Raider Nation, our third son, Samuel. What a phenomenal 2 days. Can we get some Karens down below? Usually when we're spamming Karen, it's for a whole nother reason. But you know what, man? For you on this one, I'm excited. Congratulations to you, dude. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Third son, Samuel. So does that, how many kids you got? Third son. You got only 3 boys? Or you just been putting in that work? I was going to say, if anything, she's, I guess, the one putting in the work. What'd you get her for a push gift? That's the real question. I see Zalesbo, Big Luck, David, Ross Sports, Jeremiah Daniel, Raider Nation 80, all showing love, welcoming in a new member to Raider More. My next moves. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I saw something. It's about the Bears making a move. Nothing big. My next moves, sign Spillane, trade for DK, and sign Fields. DK is a beast and will catch his passes. I think that by having DK Metcalf and Justin Fields, if you want Fields, trading for DK Metcalf is something that's got to be on your radar. Because I think it's almost the perfect fit for Chip Kelly and what this Raiders offense could potentially look like. So coming up here on today's show, we will get in to the latest around Tyler Lockett and the latest around DK Metcalf. Also, I got a few extra people that just got in for our March Madness. I see Rafael Murillo, you're in. And then I see Blaine Craig is also in for March Madness, which means we only got 33 spots left. They are filling up very, very quickly. You ready to get this thing rocking? Okay, sounds good. I will follow you. I will follow you. All right, so here's how this next one's going to go. We're going to start with the Tyler Lockett news, and then we will go to the DK Metcalf news. So just keep that in mind coming up here next on the show. And then after that, let's keep the questions flowing. Let's keep talking about Maxx Crosby, all the stuff that could potentially happen around the Las Vegas Raiders today. Raider Nation, what's going on? Let's talk about Tyler Lockett, and let's talk about the potential of trading for wide receiver DK Metcalf. Today's show is presented by Panda Sups. Use code DRAFT for 25% off at pandasups.com. Check out their brand new Super Nootropic. If you're somebody like, I don't know, me, and you just keep getting Raiders news one after another, and you need to stay focused, Super Nootropic is going to help you do exactly that. So what we're going to talk about coming up here on today's show is the latest around the Raiders potentially signing Tyler Lockett and also being interested in trading for DK Metcalf. So the news happened today. Lockett announced that the Seattle Seahawks are moving on from him, which I don't think it's all that surprising. It was expected that Seattle would move on from the 33-year-old receiver after a year where he had 49 grabs for 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. What's important about this is the Raiders are 100% interested in signing Lockett. If the Silver and Black decide to bring Lockett to this team, they could sign him today, just like the way that the Raiders signed Alex Cappa today. Now, the reason why that this is such an interesting connection is because of the Pete Carroll, right? Pete Carroll drafted Lockett. Lockett obviously was a great wide receiver for a long time in Seattle and did a lot of special things. The Raiders are also a team that has been reported interested in looking for a wide receiver 1. I do not think that Lockett is a wide receiver 1. DK Metcalf, who we'll discuss here in a moment, is a true 1. But for the Raiders, they want extra wide receiver depth. And this is a team that is looking for extra wide receiver depth. So my question to you out there is this, because I know if I ask should the Raiders trade for DK Metcalf, everybody under the sun is going to say yes. But the real question is, should the Raiders sign Tyler Lockett? Give me a yes, give me a no. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, and I am making it the pinned comment because the Raiders could sign Tyler Lockett today. The reason why I'm going to sit up here and say, yes, I would be interested in the Raiders signing Lockett is because of the connection with Pete Carroll, the relationship with Carroll, but also we've been talking about bridge quarterbacks all offseason. I kind of would want to use Tyler Lockett as a bridge wide receiver for somebody young, almost like a Trey Tucker. We know that Tucker's got all the talent in the world. Like, he is an extremely athletic and talented wide receiver, but he needs to get better at being a wide receiver in the National Football League. And if I was the Raiders, I would look at Lockett and I would say, hey, we would bring you in on a short-term deal, but you got to show Trey Tucker the ropes of what it takes to be successful. If you want to add extra competition to that wide receiver room that doesn't have a lot of talent on it right now, you make Tyler Lockett your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, let him battle it out with Trey Tucker, and you let both of those players get on the field and get some work. I do think that Lockett is still a better receiver than what Tucker is right now, and I think Lockett would be better in 1 year, but if you gave him a 2-year deal, gave him a lot of guarantees in the first, kind of like that Cappa deal that you could easily get out of in that second year, and then you hand the keys to the car to Trey Tucker to see what he's got. I don't think that that's a bad idea, quite frankly. Now, if Lockett wants something like, I don't know, $6-7 million a year, no, I'm not really interested in that. And I know right now in this Raiders wide receiver depth chart, you really only got Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, DJ Turner, he's going to hit the market. You have Ramel, Keaton, Foreman. The Raiders also brought in Kyle Phillips, the first ever recruit that UCLA had with Chip Kelly. And I see the Spytek market value at $7.7 million for Lockett. I'll be honest, I don't love that number. Where I would sign Lockett if it was a little bit cheaper. Now, if you told me it was 2 years, $14 million, and they're going to give him a lot of guarantees and easily get out of the contract, still don't love the idea. Maybe like 2 years, $10 million. That's kind of what I'm thinking, which maybe is not enough to go get Lockett. But if the Raiders do end up giving him a deal for $7.7 million, I'll say that you got to have the idea that you're also trying to build a little bit of a bridge for Trey Tucker. But Lockett is an upgrade over Trey Tucker in year 1. For that reason, I am at least interested in this. But going out and signing Lockett does not mean that the Raiders shouldn't go out and add a true number 1. Signing Lockett means that you still got to go out and you got to try to find a legit number 1 wide receiver, which maybe the Raiders decide to do in the draft. Maybe they decide to look at a guy like Chris Godwin, or maybe they decide to bring in one of his teammates and DK Metcalf, and we're going to talk about that here in just a moment because you probably clicked on this video to hear about Lockett. But Lockett's not going to be a reason why the Raiders win a Super Bowl. And I know throwing out the term Super Bowl is insane for the Raiders. But if you had DK Metcalf, it at least gives you a chance to keep it going because we got a lot of money. Extending Maxx Crosby and going out making a trade for DK Metcalf tells the entire NFL world the Raiders are serious about trying to win football games this season. And I know it's super crazy to mention Super Bowl. I also, though, have been kind of crazy about Focus Super Nootropic from Panda Supps. And if you want to get your hands on the product that's making me as awake as what I am right now, 25% off at pandasupps.com. You just got to remember to use code DRAFT down below. Now, whether you're a gamer, whether you're having a work day, or you're a student, you need to help get done some of that late night homework, I'm telling you, Focus from Panda is really going to help you do that. The Super Nootropic, the way that I would explain this to people is if you're somebody that needs a lot of caffeine, I drink a lot of caffeine. I'm not afraid to admit it. But there are times where I got to say, all right, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have another cup of coffee. Maybe I shouldn't have another energy drink. When you use nootropics, this is something that's going to wake up your mind, where caffeine is almost designed to wake up your body. But sometimes when you have too much caffeine, it doesn't even work anymore. For somebody like me, and I do work a lot, and I know a lot of people out there work a lot, but if you're somebody that needs to be able to wake your mind up and get it going really, really quickly, nootropics is going to help you do that without the crash. Energy, memory, focus, you can all get it at pandasups.com, code DRAFT for 25% off. Also, if you are located inside the United States and you spend over $100, we are also going to throw in this Panda Subs bag and a Panda Subs shaker 100% free if you spend over $100 at pandasups.com and if you use code DRAFT. So now let's talk about DK Metcalf, who requested a trade from the Seattle Seahawks today. And obviously, Metcalf has been somebody that we've talked about a bunch on this show, and obviously he's been connected to Pete Carroll and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are interested in adding a wide receiver one. That is a report that we talked about on yesterday's live show. It's a video that I also was planning on putting out later on today, but so much stuff has changed. It's TBD. I'll still probably put it out, though. I'm not going to lie. But when it comes to DK Metcalf, if you end up getting this trade done, okay, if I'm the Raiders and I trade for Metcalf, I would say that you would also want to go out and give him a 2-year extension. Why is 2 years important? He's already got 1 year left on his contract. And for the Raiders, you got to be thinking, by trading for Metcalf, I'm tying him to Pete Carroll. Carroll's got a 3-year deal with the Raiders. So a 2-year extension, I would say you'd be somewhere around 3 years, $97 million in total, with $85 million guaranteed. That's going to seem like an outstanding large number, but if you're the Raiders and if you structure that contract very similar to the way that the A.J. Brown deal was ended up structured, you're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it. So the A.J. Brown deal, he's got, which was a big one. And the reason why I'm looking at the A.J. Brown deal is because Brown signed a deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. It was 3 years, $96 million. But because you can add void years, because you can kick stuff down the road, A.J. Brown is under contract with Philadelphia until the year 2034. But look at his cap hits. The cap hits are low. And this is the way that I would want the Raiders to design DK Metcalf's deal, where lower cap hits in the first few years, backload the shit out of it, but as long as the salary cap keeps going up and up and up, you're not going to get into a situation where it really matters all that much. So if I told you right now that all of it cost you was a third-round pick, would you do this trade? Because originally I would have said, it might cost a second-round pick for DK. Now the fact that DK has requested his trade, that means that value goes down a little bit because everybody knows that he wants out of Seattle. One team to keep in mind that could really boost this price up a little bit is the Chargers, who are also being reported as interested in Metcalf. Now, I'll admit, I said this and I hate admitting it, that the Chargers did something smart, but even if you're the Chargers and you're not interested in Metcalf, it's smart to leak out that you are, to drive up the asking price for a team that you obviously know is going to be interested with the Raiders. So would you make this trade right now? DK Metcalf, you also got to pay him the contract that I was just talking about, and Seattle gets pick 68. The Raiders also have pick 73. You can tie in any third-round pick, but technically, usually, teams want the higher pick of the round to get that trade going down. So would you make this trade? Give me a yes. Give me a no. Quite frankly, if you say no to this trade, I mean this in the most respectful way possible, I don't think you know ball all that well. He is a damn good wide receiver at 28 years old that wants to block. That is a field stretcher. And when you think of what's really important in a Chip Kelly system, DK Metcalf fits that mold perfectly, and he already has a great relationship with Pete Carroll. I made a promise to the nation. If the Raiders pull off this trade, hell, I might do the entire show without a shirt on, because Pete Carroll and DK Metcalf, when they met, they literally took off each other's shirts. And I didn't even know that you had this picture. Shout out to Chugs for being able to pull this one real quick. But I mean, that's the type of dude Carroll is. And that's the type of relationship that they were able to build extremely quickly. And you know what? If I look like that, shit, man, I don't know if I would even own a shirt. I feel like I look like this, and y'all have seen me without a shirt on a bunch of times. So DK Metcalf requested a trade. The Raiders are no doubt interested in the Seattle Seahawks wide receiver. If anything ends up going down, if they end up making a trade for DK, we will go live on this show. And honestly, I would like our DK trade stream to do bigger and better numbers than what our Devontae Adams did, because I'm sick and tired of telling people one of the streams that I'm the most proud of is our Devontae stream. Let's end that. Let's get an even bigger one with DK Metcalf and make us forget about Devonta Adams ever coming to the Raiders. If any other big-time Raiders news happens, you already know I'm going to put some videos out on Instagram, on Twitter, at Mitchell Renz 365. Today has been an extremely eventful day, and if you follow me on social media, you probably have already heard me talk about Lockett, DK, which is exactly why you should give me a follow on all social media platforms. All right, man, let's talk to Latuya. What up, man? Tom the Cappa signing. Yeah, F that Cappa signing, man. I don't really get why the Raiders do it. I get why the Raiders do it. I shouldn't act like I don't. They did it because of the John Spytek connection and because they have a young offensive line group. The problem is Cappa isn't what he was in 2020 and in 2021, and he's really bad right now. Quite frankly, I can't believe that they did it. Which one? Yeah, I'd say probably put that one out at like 5 o'clock or 4. We'll figure it out. Just schedule it later. Sounds good. All right, let's go to Evoa, Hampton or Henderson with, I don't know what that last part is. If you're asking me who I would rather go with, Omari and Hampton or Trevi and Henderson, to me, I mean, Omari and Hampton is the better running back, but it also depends on what type of offense the Raiders are going to run. If the Raiders go out and they sign a Sam Darnold, and I know that they're going to pass and air it out a little bit more, I think Henderson, who's a better pass blocking back and also can catch the football, that makes more sense. If you're the Raiders and you go out and you get a Justin Fields, then I do think a running back along the lines of an Ashton Genty, a Quinshon Judkins, and Omari and Hampton makes a little bit more sense then, because you're probably going to try to be a little bit more balanced. But to me, if you want to chuck the rock, and I mean really, really chuck the rock, Trevion Henderson is the guy that you go with. If you want to go more balanced, Judkins, Hampton, Ashton Genty are probably my other top running backs. AOC was the worst quarterback in the division last year. Fields would be the same this year. I don't get wanting him. I'd rather pay Sam $30. He's a good distributor. So you're just simply saying that you'd rather have Sam Darnold at $30 million, which I agree with you. We got to make an upgrade at quarterback. And yes, Adam was the worst quarterback in the division last season. But I'll be real with you. I actually do not know if Justin Fields with Chip Kelly is worse than Bo Nix and Sean Payton. Like, I know a lot of people are like, Mitch, you were wrong on Bo. I will still stand 10 toes that Bo Nix would have been bad on the Raiders with Luke Getsy. But I did say that it comes down to fit. And I said that the perfect fit for Bo Nix was Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. I think the perfect fit for Justin Fields is Chip Kelly. Somebody that can utilize his athletic ability, somebody that can utilize his ability to throw down the field, because Fields showed that he could throw the ball down the field in college, and he just hasn't been able to show that at all in the NFL. And because I have so much faith in Chip, I would just like to see what he could do with a quarterback that has undoubtedly a shit ton of talent in Justin Fields. You can't deny Fields' talent level. Fields has a ton of talent. It's just untapped. And no matter what, whatever quarterback you bring in is going to be a risk. I do think Fields comes with a lot of risk, but he's also cheaper. Where Sam Darnold at $30 million doesn't scare me as much as it scares other people out there. If it was up to me, Justin Fields or Sam Darnold, those would be the two quarterbacks that if I was the Raiders, I would look at. Not named Cam Ward trading up. Not named Cam Ward. Yeah, I would say right now my top 5 quarterback options for the Raiders, again, realistic options to start this season. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, sounds good. Dylan, so I would say Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Ward are the top 4 options right now For the Raiders, I'm not as crazy about somebody like Russell Wilson. We got 1,500 people here in the building. Let me send the title to him real quick.
I'll take this next one.
Okay.
Jeremiah Daniel, Fields, DK, Ginty, Milrow as the backup, bring back Spillane and Kuntz. Jeremiah, my only question to you is, who's playing safety? Because I didn't see anything about Trevon Merrick, Marcus Epps in this plan. I do know with the $2 super chat, you do have limited space. But my question would be, with this, who else are you bringing back? Or what other moves? Because with the moves you have right here, with the trade for DK, Spillane, and Kuntz, you still have like $60, $70 million to play with, right? Like, you still have a lot of moves to be made past this, which is going to make this offseason insane. Today's been insane already, but the Raiders offseason is going to be so crazy because everybody always says, like, oh, wow, well, that move's not – this team can't make that move. No way this team's going to make that move. Nothing – listen right now. Nothing is out of the realm of possibility for the Las Vegas Raiders this offseason. They have the cap space. They have the draft capital. They have the infrastructure in place to make almost any move this team wants to make. So if you can think it, the Raiders can probably do it this offseason with evidence of Jeremiah Daniel. You have a decent plan there. You could add about 6 or 7 different things on with that plan as well. Short Cougar, okay. Is this crazy? Swap first-round picks with Seattle. Seattle gives up DK in either a second or a third. So you're saying Seattle jumps up to 6. The Raiders go back to, I believe they're picking at...
I think it's 18 off the top of my head. Yeah, 18.
Oh, would you do that? If it was a first-round swap in the... I mean...
To be real with you, no. We should get more. Like, if you wanted to go from 18 to 6, it would require a first-round pick.
So he's saying you swap first-rounders, the Raiders get DK and a second-round pick from Seattle. So,
if you told me right now that we could swap pick 6 and pick 18, they throw in DK Metcalf and they throw in a second-round pick, I'm listening. I would do that trade. And that might be an unpopular opinion for some people out there, but I think there's a lot of good talent at pick number 18. And again, I don't really see the Raiders taking a quarterback at number 6. So if you're able to add DK Metcalf, if you're also able to add a second-round pick, which for Seattle, that's probably where we at here, pick 50. So that means the Raiders would have pick 18, pick 37, and pick number 50 with DK Metcalf. That's pretty good. I would do that trade. I like that a lot, Short Cougar.
Okay, Short Cougar.
What up, Nick Sanchez? This is probably a hot take, but Max was practically non-existent last season.
That is a hot
That's
take.
a horrific tape. I agree with extending him, but for over $100 million is kind of nuts. In my opinion, 85 should have been the most. I don't think that you can say 85 should have been the most and say he was practically non-existent last season. Quite frankly, I know you're a loyal watcher here, Nick. I'm not going to try to dog you all too much, but
I will say
I don't
this,
know how
Nick.
you could think that.
I will say this. If the Raiders put out that they're willing to shop Max Crosby, 31 teams would call the Raiders about Max Crosby.
Including the Raiders.
Yes.
Like, are you sure that that's what you meant to say? No, you could just get a Vincent Bonsignor where it's like, the Raiders are shopping Max Crosby. Actually, other teams are just calling about Max Crosby.
Actually, sorry, somebody just told me Max Crosby is out shopping at the moment. He's getting groceries.
Yeah, I quite frankly, I think he's worth every single penny of that deal. Evoa is a running back from Virginia Tech. Did great at the combine.
That's the guy. I think that's the guy who had the fastest
40 time. I thought so when I'm not gonna lie. I saw that first name and I was like, man, that's not ringing a bell to me. Very explosive player, can get him in the later rounds. I'll have to watch a little bit more on him. I wasn't crazy about Isaac Garendo last season, and that was somebody who could really run extremely fast in a straight line. But to me, if we're going to get a running back like that, it depends which back we already have on our roster. If the Raiders go with somebody like a Quinshon Judkins and then you want to add a little bit of lightning to the backfield, I'm okay with it. If you add Trevion Henderson and then you go Tutton, who's just, again, I think more of a straight line runner, don't know if it makes as much sense for Las Vegas. But it's a good question. I appreciate it. Nick Sanchez, you're next up here on the Raiders Report. If you don't agree with me, look at his stats. How many pressures, turnovers, and sacks? Stats don't match the contract.
But Nick, can I ask you this? Who else was on that D line with him? Nobody.
A lot of injuries last season, and there is not a player in the NFL since 2021 that has more pressures and also has more tackles for losses. Where Max is going to get out there, he's going to play a lot of snaps for you, and he does a lot of the dirty work, which a lot of times doesn't get appreciated clearly here in this situation. But I think far too often people just look at sacks. But on a per-game basis, and since 2021, there has not been a player in the NFL that has more pressures or more tackles for losses.
Some, not news, but some more stuff coming out of the NFL rumor mill, the NFL cycle, as everyone is gearing up for free agency.
Yep.
According to reports, the least likely option is for Cooper Kupp to return to the Rams. It looks like they are either going to trade him or release him this offseason.
He'll get released.
There's not a path for him to come back to LA.
I would say the way that report is structured, it would be the exact same way that I would say the Gardner Minshew thing. Like, technically, Gardner Minshew hasn't been released yet. Technically, the Raiders are shopping Gardner Minshew. I know we've already talked about the Raiders cutting Minshew. It's because nobody under the sun is going to trade for Gardner. Though, we've seen a situation actually by the Raiders in years past. Remember the Gabe Jackson trade, the Rodney Hudson trade? It was reported that both of those players are going to be cut, and then a trade ended up going down because they were good players. I would say right now, like, the Raiders technically haven't cut Minshew. They could still trade him right now, but nobody's going to trade for Gardner, just like I don't think anybody's going to trade for Cooper Kupp, knowing that they're going to hit the open market. But I'll tell you this right now. Every receiver that hits the open market, Christian Kirk hit the open market today. Tyler Lockett obviously hit the open market. DK Metcalf requested a trade. Even Devontae Adams hit the open market. For somebody that wants the Raiders to sign Chris Godwin, every extra receiver that it's at least got some name value to him that hits the market, that lowers Chris Godwin's price tag a little bit. And I say that because it was really Chris Godwin and T. Higgins were the top two players on the market. Higgins got franchise tag. That made Godwin the number one guy. When you're the clear-cut number one dude, you get paid a lot higher than what you should. All these other receivers hitting the open market is really good news for the Raiders. Cameron Sproul, not loving the Cappa signing. I don't love it either. This doesn't suggest me the Raiders are interested in winning football games. Sorry, Spytek. Not going to have to show me. This was a one-year prove-it deal in a sense. It's 2 for $11.2, but it's $5.5 million guaranteed. So really, it's 1 year for $5.5. That's the guaranteed. If he's well, you keep him. If not, you move on from him. But the Raiders' offensive line is extremely young. So I would compare it to a Cody Whitehair signing like the Raiders had last season. Fringe starter, hopeful backup. It's a little bit of a higher overpay as a backup offensive lineman. But he does have 3 years, maybe 4 years of a connection, 2018 to 2021, with John Spytek. I also saw a few more people are getting in our...
X is so funny sometimes.
Getting in our March Madness duck race. It's also, I don't know if people know this, but I actually believe that today is Crosby and his wife's anniversary, or it was yesterday.
Congrats on the sex.
It was either today or yesterday. Crosby's anniversary. And again, he's like a very, I almost wonder if like March 5th now is going to be a day that he just keeps very near and dear to his heart. But I agree with you, man. I don't like the Cappa move. Let's go to Melly Williams. If you had to draft from 3 schools exclusively, what schools are you choosing?
This is a good question.
I actually like this question a lot.
Are you saying just for this draft, Melly? I'm guessing you're saying just for this draft.
Just from this draft.
I think it's easy for me if it's just from this draft.
I mean, the first one that comes to my mind is Ohio State.
Yeah, that was one of them.
That's got to be one for the Raiders. It's got to be Ohio State. Some people might say Colorado just because you'd get Travis Hunter and Shador.
Ooh, yeah.
Which
that's not.
I don't know if that's actually the route I would go.
3 schools for me: Ohio State, Texas, Michigan.
I am on board with Texas. Jahdae Barron is a player that the Raiders like a lot.
Michigan, you can get
Michigan,
the two
Will
D linemen.
Johnson, Mason Graham.
Kenneth Grant, too.
Kenneth Grant's an interesting one.
Or, you know what? Maybe, actually, X that. Swap out Georgia with Michigan. Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia would be my top three.
The only other team that I would throw into the mix, and it's only for one player, Miami.
They have a really good under the radar receiver, third round target. Xavier Restrepo is a really good slot.
Their tight end's not bad. Their running back I thought looked good at the combine.
You have a couple of guys.
They also have a guy named Sam Brown.
You can make an argument for
if it was up to me, in all honesty, I would choose Miami because that means I get Cam Ward.
So what are your three schools?
I guess in all honesty, I would go with Ohio State, Miami. Man. Do I go Michigan or I'll probably go Texas. I think there's some good depth on Texas a little bit later on. That's tough though, dude.
On cue, Buddy Bear. F Sam.
Noah, what up, man? We should call the Mavs to make a trade for Anthony Davis. I don't think you'd want Anthony Davis right now.
He's
hurt. The whole team's hurt. But again, when you make a deal with the devil like Nico Harrison, you shouldn't be surprised that you end up in hell. And the Mavs are in hell right now. I don't know if I've ever seen, if there's going to be a story, a Netflix series soon. I don't know how soon, maybe 5 years, 10 years, on how the Dallas Mavericks were ruined by one person, Nico Harrison. Trevor.
What if I told you?
I'm not kidding you. I haven't seen a fan base lose millions of fans quicker than what the Mavs have. Trevor, so is Minshew not going to be a post-June 1st cut? I was actually going to do a short on this today, and then all the craziness happened around the Raiders. So right now, my understanding is that it is not a post-June 1st cut. And I don't know if you have the player card over already. If not, it's not that big of a deal. Essentially, here's how I would explain this Raiders situation. Yes, if they would have designated Minshew as a post-June 1st cut, they would have saved more money in, we'll call it the long haul, where, perfect, I was going to say, I know we had it somewhere. So if the Raiders would have designated them as a post-June 1st, it's $4.6 million of dead money. You save $9.3. If you cut them just outright, which it sounds like the Raiders are going to do, the dead money is $7.6 million. You save $6.3. Because the Raiders have not officially announced what they are doing, Minshew still could be traded. And the thing that we got to consider is until the official new league year starts, March 12th, 4 p.m. Eastern time, Minshew is going to be on this roster. And the Raiders aren't going to announce, nor should they announce, if it is a post-June 1st cut or if it is a pre-June 1st cut. And the reason why that you don't announce that is because that means that there still is a chance that you could trade. Again, we don't think that Minshew is going to get traded. Now, if you want to save money in the long haul, you do post. But if you're the Raiders and if you want to spend that money right away, you cut him outright. You could save 6.3, which I think actually when you look at how much money is actually saved in the grand scheme of things, you could use hypothetically, let's say, this 6.3 to spend right now. There's a lot better players that you could spend money on right now. Or you could spend that 9.3 on June 1st because that money you wouldn't get until June 1st. Minshew would be able to negotiate with any team that he wanted to, but for the Raiders, it's, do I save less money in the long haul, but can use this money to spend right away in free agency? For a team that's being really aggressive, this is kind of the route that you might go. If you just want to save a lot of money in the long haul, but you're not going to be all that aggressive in the beginning, this could have been the route that you decided to go. It looks like the Raiders might go this one, but it still has not been announced whether or not it is a pre or post, and that's because it's smart for the Raiders not to do that because they are still technically trying to trade Gardner Minshew. Hopefully that all made sense. Eric Castro, next up here on the Raiders Report. Did that make sense, y'all? Give me some wide for yeses and for nos. What's our updated cap numbers? No idea. And I'm just going to tell people this ahead of time. Don't send in a super chat asking me that question because it's not going to be updated on Spytek. It's not going to be updated on Over the Cap. And those are the two places that you look for those figures, and it's just not going to happen today. Quite frankly, It's a question that's really difficult to answer all of next week as well because it's a constant move in motion, right? I don't know exactly what Maxx Crosby's cap hit is going to look like after his extension. It's going to be lower. The Raiders have added, I think a lot of people are under the assumption that everything that has happened today, the Raiders have less salary cap space. I'd almost make an argument that they might have the exact same amount, if not more, because the restructure of Max's contract means more money in year one. Sure, you gave Cappa some money, but that's only $5.5 million of that was guaranteed. I think the Raiders might still be around that $100 million salary cap figure even after today. If you don't know, we will be live every single day next week on the Raiders Report, and it looks like those are all the questions that we got here on today's live. So if we don't get anything else, it's all good. Believe me, I was excited to be able to break down the news around Crosby. It was exciting that he ended up getting that contract extension done. He's still to me, Max is the very first Raiders player that has ever shown me love. I love the Crosby family. They live down very close to me down here in Dallas, and it's been a relationship that I've been very happy to see grow. I can remember when Max was drafted at pick in the 4th round out of Eastern Michigan. I can remember when he was on Hard Knocks. I can remember when he got his first contract extension, and I'm happy that we're here to be able to report again that Crosby got another deal done. It's good stuff to be able to see it. I'll give you guys a few minutes to get a few extra questions, comments in, and if we don't get anything else, believe me, it's all good. Locho, Chugs, do a lazy twerk. I can't believe you're going to do this. That's outrageous. Rebel, Marsh update, Lakers versus Knicks watch party. I don't know. Marsh, are you doing a watch party tonight? Lakers, Knicks. Are you doing a watch party tonight? Tomorrow. Is the game tomorrow? If it's Lakers, Knicks, Rebel's going to be there.
It is.
Tomorrow? Yes.
Rebel,
watch party.
Marshall said you're too scared to show up. He said you won't show up. He said the Lake Show will not be there because they're afraid of Knicks now and Marshall Green. Those are his words, not mine. He says him, Jalen Brunson, the entire Knicks squad are going to feast. Those were Marshall Green's words, not mine, once again.
I've got a deal for Rebel and for all of the Raider rumors out there.
Raider rumors.
Anyone that tunes into Knicks Now tomorrow, if you're from the Raiders Report, I'm doing a boot for every $100 super chat.
You don't want to do that.
Bro, that might kill you. Well, I'll tell you this.
Rebel wanted to know, did the Knicks
I might
beat
be
the
there
Warriors?
tomorrow. Hell, I might show up to that game.
He said, did the Knicks beat the Warriors? No.
What time's tip-off?
9 o'clock.
I'll tell you this right now. If y'all make him do 5 boots, I'm pulling up and I might do a boot. I got nothing to do tomorrow. Alex is going to Los Angeles. Her bachelorette starts. I'm going to be watching the game anyway. I'm serious. If you guys are down to get weird, I'm kind of down to get weird tomorrow.
Fluhy with the last question of today's show. He said, for the tuna, top 5 movies from the 90s. Oh, I can't even think of movies in the 90s right now.
Dude, yeah. The first movie that came to my mind is Blank Check. It's a great movie.
Yeah, Forrest Gump has to be up there for me.
I'm actually not that big of a Forrest Gump fan. Joe Maldonado, I saw you sent me a 20 on Venmo. The problem is we're not doing a duck race today, Joe. So I will send you back that money.
The Sandlot. Happy Gilmore's got to be up there.
Is Happy Gilmore made then?
American Pie is from 1999.
That's wild.
Wayne's World.
World.
Party time.
Wayne's World. Can you check the Slack that I just sent you when you get a second?
Okay.
Because I'll tell you this, we got a brand new MVP here on today's show. Shout out to a member of Mount Raidermore, also Luis Estella. You are in for the March Madness. Again, I got to make this very clear. you can only get one entry per person for March Madness. I'm not giving out multiple entries. It's one per person. So, I just let me make sure here. Let me make sure.
I was going to say, are you sure this isn't for the...
Well, no, I'm not sure. Whatever. I'm going to... LCA. I'm going to bang to it, whether you like it or not. I know you're already in it. You said for Brandon Jasper, but at the same time, I already put one in for Brandon. So I'm going to bang for you here on the show. Lord Cameron Abbott. Bang! It's fun to stay at the LCA. Come on, Cameron. Let's freaking get this thing going. Cameron Sprout, cheers to you. Lord Cameron Abbott, cheers to you.
Mitch, any sleeper guy you would want to get in free agency? So, actually, Cameron, we made a video. I forgot who's on the thumbnail of it.
Look
week.
up Raiders Report Best Value Free Agents on YouTube.
Yes.
I literally do an entire segment around if the Raiders want to be able to build all the holes that they have. And I want them to go out and I want them to sign some big name free agents. We all do. But it's also very important to be able to build by signing some smaller name free agents that are just good overall players. For example, I want the Raiders to sign Matt Collins. I think Matt Collins would be a great outside receiver that you could add that could also give you a little special teams value. Spoiler alert, he is my best bang, best value free agent at the wide receiver position that I would want the Raiders to go get. I also break down and talk about, tight end, Mo Alley Cox. That's the cheapest, best value free agent for the Raiders. I go through every single position from quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, every player on defense, and I break down tons of names. I actually think it's a video that deserves way more recognition that hasn't gotten as much recognition as it deserves. And I know you're an OG, Cameron, so please, I think that video is like 27 minutes long. It's a gauntlet. Noah, can Max sign be confirmation of Aaron Rodgers?
We put out that video this morning, Noah.
I don't think that it's confirmation.
Not a confirmation, but it does show you that the Raiders are behind Maxx Crosby, and he will have some say in what the organization does this offseason. He's not going to have the final decision, but they're probably going to ask Max, what do you think about this move before they finalize it? And if it's Aaron Rodgers, I think Maxx Crosby's on board.
Yeah, and I think this is really important for the Raiders. I also think it's really important for Maxx Crosby. I love that Max has started the podcast, and I love that Max is, doing his own thing. But to me, the most important thing that I care about is Maxx Crosby being a great Raiders football player. Last offseason, we heard Max pound the table for Antonio Pierce. That did not work out, which is why I am not afraid to say, even if I don't want Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to be okay disagreeing with somebody like Maxx Crosby. Max said that all he cares about is concentrating on what he can control, and that's what I would advise him to do. I think that he's excited about the idea of Rodgers as if, let's be real. Max is a normal dude. The idea of being able to play on a team with a quarterback that you grew up watching, I think that there is a fun aspect to that. But I'm also not mad that Max said what he did about Aaron, because I think that it was smart to say what he did. Because the moment Aaron Rodgers' name gets brought into a conversation around Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson, that means all three of those quarterbacks that have been linked to the Raiders, their value goes down. And I say that because the more and more QBs that the Raiders could be interested in, the lower the value of all three of those other guys is. Aaron Rodgers got name value. And if it would have just been only Sam Darnold, that Darnold's value goes up because Darnold knows the Raiders are interested in him. Throwing in a name like Aaron Rodgers lowers the value to Darnold, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields. At least that's my opinion. All right, y'all. No more questions to get to here on today's show. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Had a lot of fun breaking down the Maxx Crosby breaking news.
Make sure you're following Mitch on IG. Me and Mitch are going to meet up with Cash Joey later. If you want to check it out and see the hangout. Jeff said, would you trade Mayer to the Pats for Joe Milton in a fourth? Love the Joe Milton talk.
So wait, you're telling me we give up Mayer, we get Joe Milton and a fourth-round pick? Yeah. I'm not a Joe Milton fan. Like you putting Joe Milton in that trade's cool and all, but Like, Joe Milton, to me, is probably the way a lot of y'all feel about Alex Cappa. I hope it's just a depth move.
It's like when you get a really, really good plate of nachos, and then there's that, like, little dollop of sour cream on top. Like, it's good, but it's like it doesn't make or break my nacho experience.
Like, in my mind, if Joe Milton's the quarterback, like, that doesn't do anything for me. Like, you still have to go out and add a starter. Yeah, Milton would be able to compete with Aiden O'Connell as, like, a backup quarterback, but still, like, Joe Milton doesn't move the needle for me at all. Push QB, though.
And Noah Santana, your value is about 4 first-round picks, Noah. That's your value.
Suavemente, 4 first-round picks. From me, from Jeremy Chuggs, Mo Chavez, did I get your 50? Mo, I did get your 50. You are in. I don't know if I didn't mention that already. That's on me. All right, if any other crazy Raiders news happens, you already know we will be here on the show to break it all down for you. A reminder, a DK Metcalf trade could happen at any moment. A Tyler Lockett signing could happen at any moment. And if we get news like that, you already know we will be here on the Raiders Report breaking it down.